you guys wake up a little bit. You're pretty awake, but I think you guys wake up a little bit more. So a couple things before we bring out our first guest of the week. I'm so excited. First of all, we have to absolutely thank people because I know you guys come in here and it seems to just work like magic and everything's perfect and fine, but Writers Week takes ridiculous amounts of time and preparation and doesn't happen without a lot of people working. So I just want to recognize some of those people. First of all, Mrs. Egg, who's hiding right over there. She's right there. Mrs. Egg and Mr. Anderson apparently abandoned you. I don't know where he went. But the two of them are really responsible for getting all of our wonderful presenters in this week. So if you know them, or even if you don't know them, if you're passing them by as you're going out, they're usually standing over here. Just a little high five for Mrs. Ang and Mr. Anderson. Thank them, because you have no idea how much they work on this all year for all of us. So, I also want to always give a shout out to a group near and dear to my heart, our tech crew up there. So thank you, tech crew, to make us look and sound awesome up here. And if your parents are members of the Booster Club, go home and give them a hug. It'll freak them out, for one thing. But Booster Club is very generous in terms of monetary support for us, and that also helps to pay for all the things that you guys appreciate and enjoy all week long. So we absolutely big shout out to the Booster Club as well. And then I always want to thank another really important group that wouldn't work. Oh, there's Mr. Anderson. He's snuck back in. So you can thank him later on too. So there he is. The last group I want to thank that we absolutely have to thank because Writers Week doesn't work without this group, and that group would be you all. So give yourselves a hand. Awesome. Because if you guys didn't want to come here and show such interest in Writers Week year after year after year, we would not have been doing this. This is year, 23, I think, that we're on for Writers Week, which is crazy. So what's really crazy is I remember the first one, so it just shows you I've been here forever. I'm so excited to introduce to you our very first speaker this morning. She doesn't need much of an introduction. She's a Writers Week favorite. We love her. She loves us. It's just a big, huge love fest all the time when she's here. She's a slam poetry performer. She's performed with the Neo-Futurist Theater Company in Chicago. She's writer and editor, or has been, of Quilty Magazine. The one, the only, Mary Fonz.
Thank you. Really, it wasn't supposed to do the thing that it did when it popped out of the slideshow, but it's okay because I've never done that before. I made that little slideshow for you last weekend.
Like the projector.
And I was practicing it, but there's no way to do it, you know, in front of like hundreds and hundreds of people until I do it in front of hundreds and hundreds of people.
Wait,
So,
unblanket, Mila, unblanket.
Thanks for having me. I mean, I said it at the top of the show, but you know, I can say it again. Thanks for having me, Fremd. I really do love you. I love you a lot, and I'm glad to see you. I missed you last year a lot. And so I'm going to do my little, you know, show for you, and that was the introduction of it. And there are more slides in this show, and I'm going to speed ahead to get to them. And you know what I thought about? We ran that soundtrack off my phone. Make sure to unplug it, because if it rang, or I got a text, that would be like, you know, if you leave your cell phone on when you're watching a movie, or you're at a play or something, you're like the jerk who left your cell phone on. That would be like mega jerk, you know, because it would be over the PA. So, okay. So I am going to get to my slide that starts the show. How are you doing? Are you okay? Yeah, I mean, it's not too cold out there. It's sort of like, you know, habitable. So I've got some poems, and I have a story for you that I'm going to tell you. It's going to blow your mind, I hope. And here we are. So, and I have slides this year with my presentation because I'm really into the PowerPoint, like as a form. I think it's very cool. I think it's sort of like hybrid video and text. And I was really feeling, you know, fancy about it. And then I saw Gaga's halftime show, and I was like, well, it's not that high tech, Fonz. You know, it's not that high tech to do a PowerPoint. But I noticed that she didn't do one. I'm just saying that she didn't think about it. I'm just saying she didn't think about a PowerPoint show. Okay, so I have a poem for you to start off, and this is a new one. And one of the things that I think you have to fight against in your life is believing things that people tell you. Like, people tell you things, and because you're younger than they are, or because you don't necessarily have all the information, whatever, you believe things that people say. And long ago, I realized that I don't think the ocean is beautiful. And that's weird, you know, because everybody's like, oh, the ocean, the beautiful, beautiful beach and the ocean. And isn't the ocean gorgeous? Isn't the sea just lovely? A sunset over the ocean. What could be more beautiful, right, than a sunset over an ocean? And I disagree. But it took me a long time to actually like realize that I don't think oceans are that beautiful. I mean, they're fine for some people, but for me, not so much. And so I wrote a poem about it. Like, here it goes. It's called Ode for the Ocean. Okay. I've never thought it beautiful. I much prefer a mountain range, which strikes me as more traversable. The ocean just strikes you with waves. We are to find an endless blue, or anything endless, a reflecting pool. This is madness, and all madness should frighten you. For lurking under sunset fire, just beyond the lover's sighs, are beasts with coal-black eyes, blind with only one, only mind. Survive. And longer than you, laughs the whale, killer indeed, and with a tail to crush you as you clap and wave and save your photo. All combers mind the suck down, that human-sized sucking sound, first for the mighty maw that spied you, what's red and white and red rolled over, blood becomes you, till you're cast in that vast, mast-hungry pool, adrift on the waves that lulled you, back when Cabo was not the sight of your grisly end. The fishes catch the tissue last, and any flecks of left eye that's left, are you finally out of the office? And further below, in depths we cannot fathom deep, translucent sleep. Why they wake at all, a question we ne'er allowed to ask, preferring such questions as, shall we take the pink umbrella, dear? Is Carol bringing Jake? The sea does not care. The sea does not love Carol. But for heaven's sakes, the swimmers scream, death's not all the ocean. Think of schools and dolphin. Think of shells and oyster feasts. Please. A grinning manatee emerging from the misty black is a heart attack. You'd mess your pants and your electric fan. And if tangerine clownfish and green undulating weeds are cool to you, fix them them in your mind. For 5 minutes down the line, these lives too are over. Such is the lifespan of sea color, and what a drag. The cleverest trick the ocean ever played was convincing us of her placidity. There's chaos in the drink. A jungle reversed, inverted earth, time and zero memory locked in loggerheaded war. What in the name of Christ are you out there for? The sea does not love you. The sea married herself a long, long time ago, and she's kept a tight ship ever since. See how she takes out the garbage. See how she freezes her food. See how she sweeps the floor. See how she claps herself on the back. One more touch, one more touch, one more touch, one more. She doesn't love you. She doesn't even warn you. You, land creature, get out. That ocean. How to teach you, ocean. Okay, so there's a couple different things I have for you, and I'm going to do them in order. I'm going to try to do them in order. This next thing, actually, we didn't check the sound on this, so we'll see if it'll play. And if it can't, then I'll just go to the next thing. But can you guys hit play when I tell you to hit play on this video and see if it works? Yeah. Okay, so I'll tell you when, because there's sound like in this video. So the problem with being Mary Fonz is that I do lots of different things, you guys. I write, and I also make quilts. And I was on TV for a long time on PBS, on public television. I think it was on WTTW here in your area for years, because I make these quilts, and I was on TV teaching people how to make quilts, and it was very nice and prim and proper, and you know, wait till you hear the story I'm going to tell you later, you'll be like, whoa, that quilt lady, okay. So, seriously, buckle up. So, I make quilts, and then I do poems, you know, and then I perform, and I do some theater stuff, and so when somebody asks me, you know, what do you do? So what do you do for work? I'm like, I never know how to answer it, because I do a lot of different things. So years ago, like, this is like 5 years ago, I made a video for my website, which is I don't have the video up there now, because I don't know, I changed my website again, but for a while I had this video up there, because I thought it was a great way for me to describe what it is that I do. And I'm gonna play it for you because I think it's really funny. I mean, I think it's funny. I interview myself in this video. It's about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So can you hit play? Do you hear the audio? Oh no, the spinning wheel of death. I think it likes us. Oh yeah, there you go. Go to YouTube. Okay, great. Let's watch. So what is it that you do? It's like, what don't I do? These days, I swear, you work construction. Can you turn it up a little bit? You do dog working? Can you give me a bagel and cream cheese? Okay, why don't you tell me what it is that you do? Okay, sure. Well, I do a lot of things, but they all fit together. I write, primarily, I've been writing since I was a kid, and these days I write book content, magazine content, lots of stuff on the internet. I write scripts, and I write my blog, Paper Girl, as well. Quilting. I make quilts. Yeah, I make quilts. I teach quilting with my mom on public television, a show called Love Quilting, and online I have a show called Quilty that I do in Chicago, and Quilty is going to be a magazine on the newsstand, so I'll be writing and creating that magazine as well. So writing and quilting. I see a connection. I know, and performance actually, because with the on-camera stuff. Tell me more about the performer inside of you. I have been making art for the stage for a long time in Chicago and elsewhere. I'm a neo-futurist. I've been with that company since '05 doing that, and I do a lot of performance in the city and beyond. And poetry is one of the things I end up performing quite a bit. Poetry. I knew that. I knew about the poetry. Yeah. Well, I write poems. A lot of them are meant to be performed, and I perform those poems and teach creative writing and poetry writing to high school students and college students all over the place. Let me see if I've got this. You write. Sometimes you perform what you write. Sometimes what you write is poetry. You make quilts, and you write about quilting, and you perform in a way, on camera, and you teach, you know, with the quilting. So you're a writer, performer, quilter, poet. That's it. That is it. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Well, thank you for stopping by the website. I hope you find what you need, and shoot me an email, and you know, all that good stuff. And thank you very much. I told you, it's hard to say what I do for a living. I had to make a whole video about it. I just love those glasses. I want to wear them all the time. Okay, so thank you for playing that. Okay, so there's been this huge development in my life, you guys, since I saw you last. I went back to school. I'm in graduate school at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And that is the longest name for a college ever. There's two ofs in the name of where I go to school. I can't even, it just hit me, I can't even go to a school that is like easy to say. You know, it's like, where do you go to school? The School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And that's the school that's connected to the museum, okay? So when you go to the Art Institute, they have a school. Fun fact, the school came first. The School of the Art Institute of Chicago was founded, and then they started collecting art to teach from, and that's how the museum was made. Like, the school happened first, and then the whole big museum, the Art Institute, came because the school was like buying art to teach with. I know, crazy. So I'm going there, and I'm getting my MFA in writing. For the first time in my life, I am studying writing. I mean, I've always just written. Like, I just like writing things down, like I said in the slideshow. I look around the world a lot, and I'm like, WTF, I don't understand this. I have to make sense of my life. I have to make sense of the world around me. And the way I do it is by writing stuff down. Poetry, all these different things that I write. But I've never studied writing. I've never studied how to do it. I just did it. And so I freaked out last year, like a year and a half ago, and was like, I've been denying the fact that I really want to write a book, right? I want to write like a book. I have a book of quilting patterns, and I have another book of quilting patterns, and I write in there, and I write my blog, all this stuff, but I want to write this book, you guys. And one day, you know what? I'm telling you, Gina, Miss Ink, she will, all of you, Tony, Mr. Anderson, everybody, they'll be like, we knew Mary Fawn's when, because you will see this book that I'm writing. It's gonna be big. It's gonna be big. It's gonna be big. It's gonna be big. And agents are already interested. Oh boy, I'm just saying. You want to get in on this? But I don't know how to write a book. I don't know how. I mean, there's only so far you can go until you need more technique. You know, you need more schooling. So I'm in school, and I'm in love. I love it. I love it there. I'm such a nerd for writing. I am a nerd for writing and reading. And so I just did my first term, my first semester, and now I'm in spring semester. And one of my classes is amazing. It's called Ulipo, okay? So that's just a slide that I think looks cool. That doesn't have anything to do with Ulipo. Ulipo, he's like, I am cooler than you will ever be, Mary Fons. That's what he is saying, and I'm like, I know. So anyway, Ulipo is, okay, there were these people, these writers and artists in France in the 60s. Don't you bet that was a groovy scene. So they were writers who were also mathematicians, okay? So these people, the Oulipians, their group was called the Oulipo. The Oulipians wanted to, and did, make writing that was based in mathematical formulations. For example, one person, Italo Calvino, might have even heard of him, wrote a novel based on the Fibonacci sequence. So he paired the Fibonacci sequence, somehow he made a calculation that would put a novel together using the Fibonacci sequence as a structure. And so the Oulipians, they would use mathematical equations and assign a word to serve as n, and so n1, and they would do all these crazy things. So I read about this course in my course catalog, and I was like, I'm in that class. I couldn't wait to take it, not because I like math, and I don't, and I'm not very good at it, but I love those formal constraints. You know, a sonnet has so many lines, and you gotta end with a couplet and everything. I love when I write a poem that has these formal constraints, because it's really fun. It's really fun to mess around with that, and you have these limitations, and it makes you more creative in your way. So I don't have to keep brandishing this thing around. I'm gonna set it down. Okay. So one of the things the Oulipians liked to do was something called a lipogram. And they did lots of anagrams and different puzzles and games and stuff. It was so cool. And one of the things they did do is a lipogram. And a lipogram is when you write a piece, or you write a text, or a poem, or whatever, you write a piece of text, eliminating one vowel, or one of the most common consonants, like S, T, or R. I think that's the one. So for example, one of these guys wrote a 300-page novel without using the letter E, ever. I know. What was he thinking? That's crazy. But I guess it's a really good book. We're going to read it in class. I'll find out. I'll tell you next year. But he wrote it without the use of the letter E. Not one E in 300 pages. So we're doing these. We're making lipograms, and I brought one. I mean, I brought one to show you because it's crazy. So this is the lipogram, and I put it up here so you can check my work. Whoa. Okay. There's no E in this at all, so I'm going to read it to you. Okay. It's hard to write without the letter E. Okay. So I had to pick what vowel I was not going to use, and I decided I can't write anything without the letter I. Like, I have to have an I. I cannot live without the letter I. So that's what I wrote. Now without I. I can't do this without an I. Without an I, nothing I want to craft can or will stand. To my mind, without an I, nothing can bloom. Nothing worth looking at anyhow. Nothing worth announcing or proclaiming. I'm a nonfiction author. Proclaiming is what I do. It's my jam. It is a bit tiring, though, on a bad day, if I'm straight with you. My constant I has its drawbacks. It blocks a man or woman from my soul occasionally. A constant I is blind on and off to plights not its own. This is troubling, particularly if an autumn wind blows and it's dark by 4 o'clock. At such an hour as that, my I is painfully solo. But still, it stands. I shall hold this I. No paragraph I put down can do without it. I'm so fond of it, in fact, I could almost cry, thinking of its bar or ban. You may claim all words in our world with no limits. As for this girl, as long as I clutch my eye, I shall want for no sign or symbol. It's weird, it's super weird, but like, look at the very last sentence. As long as I can't say as long as I have the letter I can't say have. I couldn't use the word have, and I couldn't use the word letter, because there's no E in this. I wrote this without the letter E. You know, there's not a single letter E. So I couldn't say alphabet, and I couldn't say, gone or have. I mean, there's a lot of words that use the letter E, and I couldn't use them, and it was really, really fun. So try a lipogram sometime if you dare, because it's really pretty fun. Okay, so that was my lipogram. Now I'm going to tell you this story, and I'm going to pull up a little seat. How many of you all know about what the moth is? The moth story slam? Have you heard about it? Yeah. Okay, so the moth story slam. So poetry slam is a contest. It's a poetry contest, and people, compete. They compete to win with their original poem. And in a slam, you have 3 minutes. For the Moth Story Slam, and they produce the Moth on NPR. Okay, so you'll hear the Moth Story Hour or something, and the Moth is like a poetry slam, only it's for storytelling. Oh, and would somebody out there wave to me when I have 10 minutes? This won't go that long, don't worry, but I want to know where I'm at. So anyway, so the Moth Story Slam is a storytelling contest. And so you get 6 minutes at the Moth, and you have to tell a true story. And there's different guidelines, like it had to have happened to you, like you can't be like, well, my grandma, this like crazy thing happened to her, because it didn't happen to you. So the Moth really wants you to tell stories that happened to you. So I've done it a couple times, and I won recently with the story that I'm about to tell you. Oh, and the Moth, every night, there's a, you're all really well behaved this morning, that's freaking me out. Are you okay? I mean, you don't have to cheer madly, or you're okay? Okay, I just want to make sure I care. Okay, so, I mean, sometimes people are like, I don't know. I'm glad that you're being quiet. Okay, so anyway, so there's a theme to the Moth every time. So one night at the Moth story slam, and you sign up, and if your name's drawn, you get to tell your story. It's all like by lottery, you know, you put your name in if you want to go up that night, and every night has a theme, and so the theme will be like food, or courage, and so your story has to be on the theme, and if your story isn't on the theme, you don't win, and it's judged by people in the audience just like a poetry slam, okay, and it's really fun, and I'm moving up in the world, you guys. You know, I teach writing at the University of Chicago now. I know, it sounds very fancy, but it's not that fancy because whatever. But I teach a storytelling class there now. And when I first started teaching it, I was like, everybody tells stories. Like, we all tell stories. That's how we communicate. Everybody tells stories. I tell stories every day. But actually, what most of us tell are anecdotes. So if you learn anything, like forget the lipogram, you don't have to know about the Olympians, although I think they're pretty cool. But if you learn something today about like writing and storytelling, like telling a story is different from telling an anecdote. An anecdote is like, oh my God, this man on the train smelled so bad that I was barfing on my phone and I ruined my phone died. That's why I didn't text you back. I mean, like that's like, ew, wow, that's weird, that happened to you. But that's an anecdote. And we tell things, that's like talking to your friends, you know, we tell things that happen to us. A story is different. A story has a few things that make it very, very different from an anecdote. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's true, there's beginning, middle, and end. But there's also usually a change. There's a change, like something is set up and you think it's gonna be this one way, and then it changes. Or a person starts out feeling like if you were on the train with that guy who smelled really bad, like a story would be if there's a guy in the train and he smelled really bad, but then he asks you a question and then you realize like, oh my God, he's, I don't know, some famous musician, like down on his luck or something, and then you like go to his concert that night, or I don't know, you know, like there has to be some like revelation or some change, and the stakes have to be high. So there has to be something that you can lose, or you have to be, you know, emotionally vulnerable or physically vulnerable. Like you don't have to, a great story doesn't mean that you're like dangling off a cliff in the Grand Canyon, you know. It can mean you wanted to ask somebody out, you know, and it was like, oh God, are they gonna say yes? Because if it's scary, it's usually pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna get my water, and look at all this water, and I brought my own. It's like the fancy stuff. Okay, so here's a story I told. Take off my jacket, get warm. Okay, it's not that kind of story. Well, actually, it kind of is. Okay, anyway, whoa, TMI. So, I live downtown, y'all. I live downtown, South Loop, and I live in a mid-rise condominium building, okay? There's like 22 floors, okay? So it's not a skyscraper, but it's a big building. And there's a receiving room in the basement, or the floor level, ground level of my building. And the receiving room, if any of you guys live in condo buildings, most of you probably live in houses around here in the burbs, but in a building in the city, there's a receiving room, and that means that all the packages from UPS and FedEx, they go there. They get delivered to the receiving room because there's a lot of people, and you know they're not going to go around to every door. And there's the dry cleaner. It's the dry cleaners in there too. So it's like on site in the building, in the back hallway of my building, toward the back entrance to the building. There's the receiving room. And I kind of can't believe I'm telling you this story today, but that's okay. They'll tell me later if it was not good. It is good. Okay, so anyway, so one day a sign goes up on the receiving room door, help wanted. And I'm like, who's gonna see this sign? Because like nobody sees this place. It's like, I mean, they better have an ad in the internet, because like who's gonna know that there's like this guy wants to hire some help in the receiving room. And like I've known the people who work there, Monica worked there, Angel worked there, like, you know, the people who work in my building, like the door guys too, these are my buddies, you know, this is where I live. It's like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. So I'm like, yeah, help wanted, okay. So signs up there for a long time. This is like in the spring, by the way, this is like in May. The sign's up for a long time. The sign gets bigger, help wanted. And Mr. Kim, who runs the dry cleaner in the receiving room, he like manages it all. His daughter started working there to like fill in. She was so miserable. She was like she wanted to be anywhere. She would have like been rather like, she would have washed dishes at the Lou Malnati's across the street. Like she would have rather done anything than work there, but she was filling in. So whatever. So one day, I go down there and I open the door to get my UPS package. And Adonis himself stands up from behind the counter. The cutest, hottest young man I have ever seen in my life. I am telling you, I was like, oh, what? He was like stood up from behind the counter, and he was like tall, so tall, long hair, which like I don't even care about that. I don't even like that. But like, oh my god. And then sometimes he would wear it in like a man bun. It was so sexy. And so he's like, he's young. He's young. He's not like that young, but he's like younger than me. And whatever. But the thing is, you need to know, I don't even care about hot. Like I don't care. I'm not into like hotties. Like that's not like I don't need to do that. But clearly, like he was having an effect on me. And he looked like he was living in Italy, and he was just like picking olives off a tree, like oiled up. And he looked like he was on the cover of a freaking romance novel. He was gorgeous. And I was like, hi, I'm Mary. And I was not popular in high school, okay? I was not popular in high school, so I see a really cute guy, and I'm an idiot, you know? Like, and I honestly couldn't talk to him. I was so taken by his beauty. And I felt stupid and whatever, and that happens all the time, so that's really okay. But I was really, okay, he was hot. So, his name is Mariano. Yeah, he's from Miami friggin' Beach. Yeah, Miami Beach. Like, he grew out of the sand. He's like a beach god. Yeah, his parents are like one's from Venezuela, one's from like Norway. I mean, he's like the perfect, anyway. So over the course of the next month, I'm getting to know Mariano because like I'm friendly. I talk to anybody. I have no shame. I will talk to you. I'll talk to you. But I had to like get cute every time I went down there, which was a real pain in the butt, you know. It's like I couldn't just go down in like my sweatpants and my flip flops and like pick up my damn package, which I used to do. Now I had to be like, hey, how's it going? Oh, just getting my package. And so we're talking and things. And here's the thing. I blogged about this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I blogged about Mariano. I didn't use his name in my blog because, you know, that's not cool. Like, I'm not gonna like talk about somebody without their permission in my blog. And by the way, and I have to tell you this, and I'm not bragging. I ain't bragging if it's true. But I've been writing my blog a long time, like years. As long as I've been coming to see you, my friends at Fremd. Like last month, 11,000 people read my blog. So, I mean, it's really, you know, and like 2,000 of those people subscribe to it. So I have all those email addresses. I don't know what to do with them. Apparently they're worth money. But anyway, I don't care. But people, like a lot of people read my blog, okay? And a lot of the people who read my blog are quilters. Because, and I blog about my life. I write about just my life. It's not like a cooking blog or like a vegan cupcake blog. It's like just marathons is life, you know? So, like, I'm like, oh my God, guess what happened? Hot guy working in my receiving room. The post blew up. I mean, people were like, all the quilters, they're like, oh my God, tell us more, this is exciting. And I'm like, it looks like the cover of a romance novel. They're like, I was just reading a romance novel. And I'm like, oh, this is great content. You know, I'm gonna have to update the receiving room guy story, because, you know, look at the hits. I had like 650 likes on that Facebook post, you know, so I was like, all right. So over the course of the next month, I get to know Mariano. How did he get the job? He lives in the building. On the 7th floor. I don't know what floor he lives on. Anyway, so he and I get to know each other, and I don't tell him about the blog though, because like weird, right? Creepy. So I blog about him again. You know, we're getting to know each other, and finally one day, he's like, "So, I'd love to see your quilts sometime. You know, that sounds really interesting." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." So what do? I go up and I get quilts and I bring them down. I'm like carrying like all these quilts with me, like down to the receiving room, because I don't get it that he was like basically asking me out, you know, because I just didn't get it. So I told him, and I'm like showing him quilts in the receiving room, and I'm like sweating. I'm like, well, there's this one, and then there's this one, and it's like dirty and on the floor, and there's like package dust like all over my quilts, and I'm like, and I show him my book, and he's like, wow, that's amazing, that's really awesome. And I was like, yeah, well, anyway, okay, thanks, good to see you, I'll see you later, bye. I tell my friend later, I'm like, well, yeah, he wanted to see my quilts, I think that's kind of good, you know. She's like, Mary, idiot, you dummy, he was trying to ask you out. Like, he can't ask you out, he's at work. Like, he can't be like the creepy dude who's like, hey, you wanna go get a drink? Because he's like working in my building. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. He was trying to ask me out. I'm gonna ask him to go for a drink, you know? So, the next day, I did. I went in there and I was like it just occurred to me, you know, like I just thought about it. you know, like no big deal. I was like, yeah, you know, well, yeah, anyway, okay, I gotta go. Hey, do you want to get a drink sometime or something? Do you want to like hang out? Because it's hard to talk when people are coming in and out of the thing. And he like cuts me off. He's like, yeah, I would love that. And I was like, great, that's great, okay. And then all the time I'm thinking, I have to tell him that I've blogged about him like 3 times. like hundreds and thousands of people know about him. This is so weird. I also was like, why hasn't he not Googled me enough to know that I've been blogging about him? Whatever, it's okay. So I'm like, okay, how about you just come up to my place and we can have a glass of wine? And I had this idea, because a few weeks before, I got a package of these conversation cards, because anyway, it was my birthday, and like there's this really cool place that makes all these neat gifts and things. Anyway, I got this deck of cards that were conversation cards. You know those things, like, what's your favorite color? But way better questions than that. But I don't really need conversation cards to have a conversation, but I really wanted these things. So I had this idea. I was like, Mariano, why don't you come up to my place, you know, on Sunday, and we'll have a glass of wine, and we can do those conversation cards that came the other week, because he was there when I got the package, you know, and I told him about them. So he's like, great. So So I wrote one more blog post, and the blog post was an open letter to receiving room guy.